Answers of an Alien from Andromeda, Video 145, September 29, 2016. Mythy words, a long absence but quite parallel work in other colonies at the time. Some of them are already going through the environmental decontamination process, atmospheric improvements and water resources, as it will happen here as soon as possible. Now we should be here more definitely. As all of you are feeling lately, the planet is as axial oscillatory movement under control of nature. The gravitational balance is already far and virtually little or no effect is providing now. It was a very wise decision of galactical community to postpone these 4 years as it increased the potential of this colony of 10 to 34%. Now, as there are inertial movements of balance in the sequel of galactic motions, is nearing the time so that they can interfere without breaking this balance that invariably have to go through corrections for some time so that the entire balance be maintained. Now is your time to show what you all have been made, because everything will now depend on you in terms of society to enable this lush colony and places it in the ideal balance for interstellar conviviality. See, everything that happens in the fluency of events is a sequence imposed by actions that generate subsequent actions as a direct result. If something starts based on misconceptions will not generate a result set for the end. In societies on the planets, where the nature and the resources become well managed, generating harmony among all life forms therein, comes into being the physical and spiritual balance necessary for the rise of that race. Here on your planet everything is in constant imbalance, forms of life being extinguished, attacks against the natural balance of the environment with physico-chemical experiments primitive and pernicious, that is, the planet is out of control at this time. A planet with nature outside the normal standards will react to what is causing this imbalance, and these reactions do not separate good from bad, just happen in a generalized way. The most important thing is that at least 34% of you will form the evolutionary cycle of this beautiful planet, and will have your voices present as member of galactical community for the first time. Now the questions. The 2 new level 1 colonies you mentioned in the last meeting, were they reformatory? Were they humanoid? How long was the transition? How did the Manchuk fleet personally participate? No reformatory Daga, they are more uniform humanoid colonies, with a maximum of 2 ethnic groups living in the same society. We participate in most activities, from meetings with civil society representatives with other members of the CG, to the direct support on environmental initiatives with the Arcturians, Pleiadians and other races. Mythy, news is just being released that a formerly unseen large galaxy is orbiting our Milky Way galaxy and they have called it Crater 2. It's very large but not a bright galaxy like our other close neighbors. Is this true, and what can you telling us about that news, to Earth, galaxy? Are any of the ETs here from Crater 2, and are they CG members as well? Thomas, this dwarf galaxy as you call Crater 2 is a low-density conglomerate of stars, and like the Magellanic Clouds that orbit your galaxy also, still at an exploitation stage yet. Some colonies there and some CG members as well, but it's a secondary priority to CG standards as the Milky Way itself have thousands of planets waiting in the queue to be colonized. When the big shift comes, will it be gradual like with the tilt we have seen over the past years, or instant? I know the Earth changes might be instant, but was wondering about pole shift, or are they all the same? JB, everything in nature happens integrated, as you all used to say, one thing pulls the other. Nothing will happen instantly because all the changes to the level of an entire planet will have to overcome the immense inertia of the mass rotating on its axis. This is called by you a gyroscopic effect, that is, the force required for an inversion happens in the core of the planet is very large and can act in the nucleus before the crust follow the same movement. See, the crust can move only about 30 or 40 degrees and find new equilibrium, so will not necessarily reverse 180 degrees, as eventually the core will. At that point, they will be formed new geographical poles in regions that end up stopping in extreme north and south of the new configuration. Mithy, I know you have said there are only three-dimensional forms here on Earth, but are there other subcategories in the third dimension which we humans cannot see but other three-dimensional beings such as cats can see, or at least seem to be able to see? Can you expand upon this for us? And what the ramifications of this are, in general? And are there also astral and etheric levels with their own subgroupings? Thomas, this question is interesting. There are many layers in the matter, our physical matter 3D and different levels of quantum matter in plasmic forms more or less dense. From ORBs to Antilles beings, there are many forms of matter circling the environment without observers of the third dimension are able to realize them. All this ethereal form of matter can be attracted by the aura emanated by each of us, depending on the intensity of the aura is always surrounded by plasmic energy that interact to help maintain strong and healthy light. Some sensitive humans to these forms of energy can feel the lightness of the environment when in their presence. In the case of cats, the view spectrum is extremely more open than the human, allowing that they can actually see forms of plasmic energy denser with ease. Before you ask, no human spirits are not circulating among you. They go directly to the plan to which they are attracted by their quantum auras soon after the death. The rest of the stories circulating among you are fables with little nexus. Mithy, apparently because Uranus is so cold it is a hostile environment for carbon-based life forms but not for silicon-based life forms, is that true? Thomas, as I said long ago, when life happens at a particular location it chooses the materials available in the environment to be structured. Yes, there are many variations of composition of living beings in the universe based on large number of elements and living in very different environments from those in which higher forms of life could survive. They are so simple life like bacteria and other micro and macroorganisms, some tremendously dangerous if contaminating other environments. Plenty to meet and places to avoid. Mithy, ley lines are hypothetical alignment of a number of places of geographical interest, such as ancient monuments and megaliths. I notice how they form perfect equilateral triangles. Why? How did our ancestors use earth energy to map their sacred sites and burial grounds with dowsers? Why do these places feel special? How do disincarnated souls interact with earth energy? How do the ley lines work? Do ley lines go up and down with day and night? How does the sun affect ley lines? How can Earth spirals and black spots affect our health and behavior? How can they be used to enhance our health and well-being? Also, how do the large stones throughout Europe with cup markings redirect Earth energy and why? What are the strange qualities of cup mark energy? Karen, ley lines as you call them are deliberate alignments for directional power transmission between distant points, much earlier periods of technology adapted to the site. More than 1 billion years ago many races did excavation and mining here while others practiced hunting. As here you use a line their antennas for satellites, it was the same with power generation units, and tracing system was designed so that a transmission line does not interfere with another. They worked in a power node system that could supply a deficiency of any of the affiliated units because they are in a closed circuit. They tried to use more approximate parallelism of the geomagnetic lines of the planet to optimize these high-power transmissions. The sun does not interfere with them, only with the geomagnetic field of the planet. That's what you call cup markings have varied backgrounds. Some of them are taken from mineral samples, others are markings of stellar positions observed by your native according to the information given by visitors. These marks have no special effect, no energy emanating from them, are only landmarks of old age activities on the planet, so they do not affect humans. Dear Mithy, would you mind to tell us more about the fields of conscientization we have to explore first? Social improvement, go on yourselves in the real world following our dear CB's social initiatives or Philippines Mithy team backing campaign wave. It is not for obedience to you I am asking, but in the emergency to take useful actions in the feeling our lives are going shorter and shorter. I hope you understand me. Eve, charity is the result of an inert altruism, because since many do not have time to do personally, then help with resources who make themselves available to do. This is a conscientization gesture in a society mostly unconscious to the problems of others. Social development is the result of a gradual increase of conscientization of a society as a whole for a day to reach your ideal spot for the healthy development of each of its members. Today you may not need, but the fact of planting the goodwill in creating a just society can be the seed that will save your future generations from one day need charity from others. Charity is not an act of kindness. It is a gesture of goodwill. Do not use charity as an act of removing weight from your shoulders, as the conscientization is a reality that comes from the inside out like a flower bud, never from the outside in. Hi Mithy, what can you tell us about this planet named Niku? Is this one of the new planets being towed into our solar system? Tammy, this is a very vague question. Many celestial bodies are being moved to make way for the balance necessary for the orbital changes that are underway, as well as handling the Nibiru system to follow their journey, finally. It's like UOA chairs for moving the table. Your scientists will observe many planets and large asteroids appearing and disappearing because they are being moved from one place to another. So it isn't possible to know exactly which one they're talking about because hundreds of celestial bodies are being towed to make way for other events right now. Mithy, can you tell us more about how the portals work to help with the quantum balance of life on Earth? Why are such portals here? Did they naturally form or are they artificially created and placed purposefully? Do they have anything to do with ley lines? Bridget, portals has nothing to do with the balance of life on Earth, they are as transfer ports allowing the free movement of ships and materials. There are no natural portals, except those of gravitational tunnels to points that are naturally created by the solar system, but these are not portals, are just points of gravitational binding. Portals has nothing to do with the old ley lines, simply they are installed in places where interfere the least possible with the planet's environment. Mithy, since you have already studied many planets on their transition from level 0 to 1, Can you tell us what kind of governments those planets usually have at this critical time, and what type of government seems to be the best, and what government form known on this planet would be closest to the ideal one, from your perspective? The film, as these planets passing to the level 1 were not as heterogeneous as the case of this former reformatory, held in most cases a central government with dozens of regional sub-headquarters. They did not need armies or weapons, they had no neighbors to war because there are no boundaries. In the case of your planet, this kind of advice should be implemented as soon as the borders are erased to make way for an Earth-planet race, and under the tutelage of CG your council representatives of your planet will be people of high level of aura. People who really will have their opinions respected regarding the tutelage of the planet as a whole. So anything you have on the planet at the moment in political terms is similar to what we'll have in the future. Mithy, can you describe to us in detail how the process of donating DNA or seeding colonies actually works? The film. Many experiments with DNA were and are made throughout the universe. When a planet has wild humanoids, DNA results from spontaneous mutations during the millennia of its development. Compatible breeds are reported to assist in the development of these ethnic groups faster with the most elaborately developed DNA insertion. This donor race will be the race godmother of that new civilization that will form over time. It's usually one or at most two related breeds participating in this endeavor by planet. In the case of reformatory planet Earth, dozens of ethnicities were planted by many different races because at the time this planet still was not under any legal control. So this is a sui generis planet, problematic but surprisingly promising. Mithy, you told us that people with Down syndrome come here from a different planet and have similar features no matter where they are born, disregarding the DNA of their parents. Used this planet to dump their low-frequency spirits here. Can you explain to us in detail in what relation a certain body type stands with the type of spirit inhabiting this body, and if there are any limitations on what body a spirit can inhabit? Why could those spirits not simply use bodies already present on the planet? The film, The Case of Downs, is a kind of cultural exchange. It's not just for your planet they are sent by blue beings, but for various colonies 0 level for an acceleration in the development, since they have developed themselves for millennia with spontaneous development of DNA. They had no godmother race donating DNA and are now a race protected for spontaneous development as a framework for natural and non-intrusive development. Therefore, they will continue to have the corresponding appearance to its development through the ages, without the direct interference of the DNA of the biological parents of any other planet. Mithy, you can tell us anything specific about the city beneath Lake Ontario, in the Rochester Basin? Joshua, some ruins there long before from forming the lake, no real city beneath the lake. Just an entrance to an old tunnel used by service ships to return to undersea bases by these connections. After reading a recent message from you, I have decided to become one of the few to ask the community Galactica CG for help in saving the people of our world. The elite, who are self-proclaimed rulers of the planet, have plans to eliminate more than 3/4 of the world population. Millions of people have already died as a result of their greed and lack of empathy. As a result, I am asking for your help to protect the people of all nations on this planet we call Earth, that they may live out their lives naturally, in peace and safety without being at the mercy of the elites. Thank you. Maggie, your initiative to request help is commendable, But as I have already explained, the CG cannot change the final development of the colony. They have to wait until the colony is stabilized by their own means and initiatives. If there are attempts by some dominant groups to cause mass extermination of any ethnic group, oh yes, the CG will allow us to interfere. You are not well managing your knowledge of incarnations, and it makes you keep your attention only on immediate survival. Worry about having a luminous aura so that you are automatically transferred to your rightful place when the time comes, and any day it will invariably come. Keep in mind that your future depends only on you, neither from your government nor CG but only on you. Mythi, how do different level 1-5 civilizations celebrate the end of physical life cycle? Are the bodies buried in soil, sent on a journey to the local star, or recycled in some form or fashion? I imagine local customs probably vary considerably. Davy, each race has its rituals and traditions. In the vast majority, incineration is the most used. Burying bodies as widely as done here is a major characteristic between zero-level colonies and below. The remains of a body are not necessary for the natural balance and has no social importance in the most advanced civilizations. Keep in mind that we are based on carbon, and to carbon will return. To develop a body of any race, humanoid whether or not, it is necessary only when pair of related cells, so the body must recycle, leaving the smallest possible pollution when it ceases to have any utility. Mythi, you mentioned that the Roswell interview was real and correct, but some parts were misunderstood. Can you explain to us why the being Errol seemed to be so appalled about the things that you described to us as normal? Like being spiritually locked into a planetary prison. Like having to forget everything of your past lives and being told it is just for our own good until we learned our lessons? As a spiritual being that has free will, would it be possible for me to reincarnate with all my memories intact? And if not, who or what exactly would stop me from doing that? Is it the same for all of this universe, or are there parts where these rules do not apply? Well, Nephilim, this planet has never been a prison planet. The closest word to describe is reformatory. A place where many mixed ethnicities humanoids cause the effect Tower of Babel is told by your literature. Failure to remember past incarnations is a constant in any planet, not only here. The more races level up, the power of intuition leads to using more and better knowledge acquired in previous incarnations, but it is the result of conquest by individual conscientization. No one needs to allow you to embody with memories of other incarnations, but you can get this right with your physical and spiritual development. Remember that the activation of the brain depends on the development factor, and this detail only you can provide yourself. Friends, intended to be allocated to the fleet in service on this planet permanently until the time of any contact, so maybe we can talk more often. Be well in health.